Welcome to an episode that is a number that I can't remember of Business Under the Influence. Episode 7?
Seems fine.
I don't fucking know. I'm your host, Kristen. Our guest, we got a guest, you guys, Tanner LaBelle, who is a wizard in many things. So the gentleman in a Brady Bunch diagonal to me named Ben he's very good at a lot of things. Some of the things we're not really sure what they are, but a lot of them have letters. There's a PMP, there's an MBA, and then like a BS or something like that too. Ben, fun fact about Ben is that he actually won 3rd place in the Montana Pogo Stick competition in 2021. True story.
COVID year, but it still counts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was Montana. They didn't believe in COVID.
I think that was the bubble. The bubble year for pogo competitions.
Yeah.
All right. This is my good friend below me, David, and coworker. He has years of experience in operations, leadership, Kaizen, Kanban, project management, all sorts of stuff. A fun fact about him is that he was briefly sponsored by Heinz for freestyle canoeing. Briefly.
That was until they saw me canoe.
I was gonna say how briefly. You're like, I made some shit up and then they saw.
I didn't think they'd ever actually verify. I just thought I got free spreads. All right. So with us today, joining us for this absolute shit show of an adventure is Tanner LaBelle. He is a guru at digital brand identity marketing. If you want people to actually want to buy from you, he's the guy to talk to. Fun fact about Tanner is he actually placed 2nd in an Eastern European arm wrestling contest. And when asked why he didn't win, he said, "I didn't want to use my strong hand."
Yep.
Oh, man.
My turn.
Yep.
All right. So we have Kristen, who I've known for a long time, once as a manager and a roommate, and now as a friend in the business world. Fun fact about Kristen, she runs a side business as a dog chiropractor, making sure dogs have all their shit together.
It's very true. Very true. Crack-a-lackin'.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Tanner is here as a tribute for us to pepper with questions about...
So is that your dog's name, Crack-a-lackin'?
No.
That's her YouTube channel. ASMR dog chiropractic services.
I actually say that to my chiropractor too. Like, I just went in the other day and he's like, "Are you ready?" I was like, "Yeah, we're going to crack-a-lackin'." And he's like, "You're ridiculous."
So, excuse me, we can't actually offer you any services anymore.
Yeah. Oh no, we're full now. Anyway, so Tanner's volunteered as our first guest victim. And we get to ask him all questions about branding, digital marketing, logo design, wizardry. David, you said you had some questions already fired up?
I did. I feel like my first question is just kind of give us a rough overview of why it matters to actually invest in brand marketing.
Why it matters to invest in like the branding of your business, basically. Because it's all about like recognizability. So when people see you in the marketplace, you want to make sure that they can recognize you easily. So an easy way to do that is a logo. If you think like Starbucks, McDonald's, Nike, whenever you are driving down the road, you recognize the logos, first. The other thing would be colors. So that's all kind of encompassed in branding. But branding is more so than just like a logo. It's like everything to do with the business that a potential client or customer will interact with. So Kristen and I talk about this a lot. Like the tone and voice of your brand is almost just as important as the visuals. So how you talk, how your posts are sounding online, whether you swear in your branding, whether you're, super professional and like trying to be all clean cut, like all that kind of stuff will align with your branding. And if you're good at branding, you will have that be very consistent throughout every touch point. So hopefully that's a good, solid answer.
Well, maybe what's the difference between branding and marketing? Because I think that's a thing that people get confused about sometimes too.
I would say that okay.
Yeah, David's already.
I would say that branding is more so what your clients say about you or your customers. You can influence that by your marketing. So let's say we'll just use some big brands. Let's say you're Nike and you want people to think that you're cutting edge, you're a sports brand, you're what the best athletes in the world wear, and you want your customers to think that about you. So in a marketing campaign, you're going to find the best athlete in the sport. You're going to give them a new product that they wear all the time. You're going to get photos with them, and you're going to run campaigns around that idea of the best athletes in any sport wear our apparel. And then through consistency over time, your customers will think that about you. So marketing is kind of like trying to influence how you want people to see you in the marketplace, and branding is what your customers say about you. But it's kind of like when you're branding a company, the first thing I do when I like meet with a client is we go through like business therapy, basically, where I figure out like, why are you in business? Why should people care about it? What makes you different? And so we try to like reverse engineer the what you want your clients to say about you in the beginning. And so every design element going forward, whether that's a logo or typography or colors or your tone and voice, is all going to be designed strategically in order to meet that specific customer so they can say that about you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I do have another question there. Branding and marketing, is there ever a big mismatch? Like, does a client come to you and they've tried a marketing campaign that just does not at all align with their brand? Or how much of that is there really?
Typically, when I work with clients, I'm kind of rebranding them is usually the main clients I have. They're either starting businesses and we're starting the branding process from the beginning. The thing that I run into with clients that I feel like are not making the mark is when their social media doesn't reflect the branding that they tell me they want to do. So there's clients that I work with where we go through this whole design process in branding, and we pick colors and fonts and the way we talk and the way we want to be represented. And then you look at their social media like 3 months later when they're kind of like on their own, and it's not what we went over at all. So they're like not sticking to the guidelines or the branding that we kind of spent all this strategy going about. And so that's usually what I run into, is building a strategy. And then when my clients, which is the thing I'm trying to help along, when my clients kind of go out in the world and I'm not helping them, they kind of like lose their way a little bit. And so the big thing that I try to do in my brand now that I'm noticing is I need to make sure that I have like a bulletproof style guide for my clients. And I want to make sure that it's like their business Bible as far as like how we interact on everything. And it's kind of difficult to get people bought in on that, especially on small businesses, because usually it's one person running the show and it's hard to, juggle a million things at once. I know I have trouble with that sometimes, but when branding is not a strong suit for clients, I feel like that's usually the first thing that falls off. Yeah, that's the biggest thing I struggle with, though, is when somebody reaches out to me like, hey, I want this video done for, like, a lot of my clients in the beginning were real estate clients, and they'd be like, I want this video done to sell this house. And then I make the video and it just like doesn't feel like it's going to serve any purpose to what their business does. It's just like, that's where I struggle with working with brands that I feel like don't have a strong sense of identity. And so
Really is like business therapy.
it seriously is. Like I send like discovery questionnaires out to clients. And a lot of it is like, I always try to think like big term, like 10 years down the road. Let's say this small business that you're running with yourself or your wife or something like that takes off. And it's not just you, it's you and a handful of employees, like 10 or 15. What is the culture that you want to have in your business? And then I have them list out like 10 words that are related to the culture in the business. So I know in a lot of my jobs leading up to being self-employed, the culture was the first thing that I usually did not agree with. And that's why I'm self-employed. And so I can think of a lot of negative things about culture in my previous jobs that I don't want to be associated with, and like micromanaging and not having a lot of responsibilities. And you can think about it that way and just kind of do the adverse of that, like giving people freedom, letting them make just choices, and making people work within their strengths. But we do all those different adjectives. So let's say you want to have an inclusive culture with free reign, and you list off like 10 other words. We do that adjective brand attribute test for culture. You do it for brand identity. So how you want your customers to see you in the marketplace. And then there's a few other segments. And then from those adjectives, I go off as a designer and I find images that I think relate to the words that you've written down. And so then I come up with like a mood board of images that I think relate to the words that you've used to describe your ideal business. And then that's how I start the branding process. So there's some other decisions that are made within that as far as what the business likes as far as style. But that's primarily my job, is to turn like this therapy session that gives you a lot of things to think about with your business, and then funnel it down into descriptive words. And then I take those descriptive words and turn them into images. And then once we're both on the same page as far as I like where this imagery is going, then I start going into the logo design process and designing something specific for that business.
How much time do you think in that process you spend talking a company out of just downright dumb choices? Because I know with like web design and stuff, there's a lot of like, oh, but I want Comic Sans, and it's like, no, you don't. You actually don't. But,
We never did. Yeah.
Papyrus is my font of choice that I see everywhere, and it just drives me nuts, especially in Oregon. It seems like every small like law firm or I don't know, massage therapy place that Kristen runs has Papyrus. And there's an SNL skit about it, which maybe is another reason why I think it's funny. But every time we drive by when I'm with my girlfriend, I'm like, Papyrus, just like this. But yeah.
Is that the Avatar one where he's hiding outside of his house? Papyrus.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually had a school client that her favorite font was Comic Sans. She like ran a teaching she was a counselor, and I had to talk her out of Comic Sans. So we found a font that was kind of hand-drawn looking. But typically when trying to like steer clients away from those design choices, I try to bring it back to the ideal client. So a lot of times when people are doing brands, I think the biggest mistake they do is they are thinking, I like gold, so I want my business to be gold. But maybe your ideal client is not materialistic, and they're more like they want something more natural. And so maybe like greens or blues or something would be more appropriate to attract your ideal client, instead of having a color that is something that you personally like that doesn't relate to what your services are or what your ideal client is going to like. So through that discovery session, the biggest thing that the discovery session does for me as a designer is down the road when I'm making design decisions, if I get pushback, I can basically have some point of reference as to why I am making those decisions. And if it's not something they agree with, then I can go back to the discovery and be like, okay, well, in the discovery session, we talked about how our ideal client is a 25 to 30-year-old male who likes to go outdoors and spends his time, with his dog. And I don't think that your decision to make the color, hot pink is going to really align with our target client. Do you see him wearing this color? You know what I mean? And so I try to bring it back to the discovery session to try to not make them get on my side, but just kind of see if the discovery session is right or if the client's new idea is right, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How often?
Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
How often do you find that someone's personality does not match the brand identity that they need to be creating? Like if I'm a small business owner listening to this podcast and I'm like, I should start a business, and then I go out and I think that my personal identity works. If I'm running an Etsy shop or I'm very involved in the community that I'm building something for, maybe my personality matches versus just complete mismatch. Like, could you even give a percentage there, or is it just total crapshoot?
Can you restate that?
So how often is there a disconnect between an individual's identity and the brand they need to create? So how concerned should a new business owner be about separating those two?
Well, the first thing that I think is like a small business or like an entrepreneurial person, authenticity, I think, is more important than what you want your brand to be. And so if you don't come off to your target clients as authentic and like I feel like that's going to be a bigger miss than if your logo sucks, if that makes sense. So if you're creating social media content and you're supposed to be this like event planner who brings the party everywhere they go, and you show up and you're maybe someone like me who's pretty introverted when I'm at parties and I don't really like doing all those things, I don't think they're going to have a lot of confidence in that you're going to be the right fit for them. So I think you have to either have a little bit of self-awareness in terms of what you offer as far as your skills. If you're in a service-based business, I would probably say this is more appropriate. If you're in a product-based business, I think that your personality doesn't really have to align with the product to a point where you can like get models to fill in or, have social media influencers that kind of fit the the brand identity that you want to show. But yeah, if you're a service-based industry like myself or Kristen, or I'm sure you guys are doing some consulting too, I would try to make sure that your business is a little bit more in line with at least your personality that you're trying to show. Just so for the authenticity.
Yeah. So if I made board shorts, but me being the pasty human being who can't see the sun, that's fine, because I can just be like, I'm going to put these board shorts on people that do have melanin in their skin. And then that's fine. But if I'm like, I am selling how to surf, and then I walk out onto the beach, everyone's like, oh no, Oh no.
Yeah.
This ain't it.
Yeah. But I mean, there's people that are really good at like designing products and solving a need in the market. And sometimes those people aren't the best face for that product, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, it kind of depends on, I would say, whether you're a service-based industry or a product-based industry, because you can work yourself around it if you're doing the product. But yeah, that's a good question. When I was in the real estate business, we had like a team of agents. And so the owners of the company had like their main brokers, like their independent brokers who are just like, kind of like Keller Williams or whatever. You just are a real estate agent for the bigger firm. And then they had like their own team, and their own team was supposed to be this like high quality, we sell the nicest houses in town, like biggest dollar amount. And to me, some of their real estate agents were brand new real estate agents. And so for me, I feel like there's a disconnect. Like they're growing a team, and their team environment is, we're going to help you learn how to do real estate. But then their branding was like, we're luxury real estate. And for me, that kind of like, I don't know if you can have a newbie going into $1 million home and really sell a buyer or a seller that you're the right agent for that. I feel like there was a disconnect there. So it happens sometimes, but it kind of depends on whether the brand or the business owner is self-aware enough to know that, and if they're willing to change. If you're not willing to change, then those are usually clients that I try not to have.
Yeah.
Goals.
One of the perks of being self-employed is you can pick your, the people you work with to a certain extent.
You ever just dropped a client? Just like, hard pass.
I don't know if I like just drop them, because I usually I'm like a people pleaser. And so I usually try to give way more than I feel like is needed, just so I feel like I'm not indebted to them. There's this saying that I kind of picked up that my friends get a kick out of every time I bring it up, is like a relationship bank account. I think I might have talked to Kristen about this.
Yeah.
But I usually try to make more deposits than withdrawals, just so I'm always within good standing with people, if you bring it down to like a banking aspect. But yeah, once I feel like I'm in the negative with them, like they're taking away too much from me, and I feel like they're a vampire energy, or like an energy vampire, which is another term I like.
It's a good reference.
Yeah, then I start thinking this isn't worth it. Like if I just feel exhausted after working with a client, and I will try to find a way out, but I usually try to like finish whatever the agreement is, and then either recommend them to somebody else, or just say I'm too busy, or I'm moving on from this relationship. I try to end on good terms, but yeah, I'm big on energy, and whether I am excited to work with somebody or I'm not. Because that's like my name of my business is Fan the Flame, which is like basically trying to put energy into people's passions. And so I try to align with people that are very passion driven, like myself, and I kind of feed off of people's energy. As far as if you're really excited about something, I could kind of care less what it is, as long as I can feel how excited you are to tell me about it, and then I'm going to get excited about it. But if you're someone who's like, I don't know, maybe more business minded and just wants to see your bank account go up, and you're not really attached to how it's affecting your customers or the employees that you are paying, or how it's how it's something that you are born to do, then I don't really want to work with you. Maybe that's just from like years of working like part-time jobs in retail and customer service, and I just kind of got that beat out of me. But yeah.
All righty. So in kind of, I guess, the technical questions is, I feel like we're starting to see a trend towards just seeing a lot of brands moving for just text in like a simple font. I think the most recent one is Petco. They dropped the dog and the cat, and then they just moved to just the same font, but in blue only, and then just Petco. And I think there was a couple others recently prior to that. Have you seen kind of that's my only like driving around seeing that. Have you seen that kind of in the branding world, where people are kind of simplifying their logos?
Yeah, I think if you look at any brand that's been around for a long time, their logos are going to get more and more simple over time. So if you look at like Mercedes-Benz from like the 1920s to today, their logo is pretty much the same, because they were pretty simple to start with. But if you just like Google like business branding over time or whatever, and type in like Pepsi or Coke or Apple, you'll see like a simplification over the years. And the main reason I think that is the more simple you have something while it being unique, the easier it is for people to recognize it. And that's kind of a theory that is I've learned from one of my favorite logo designers, Sagi Haviv, who works for the branding agency that done like the Chase logo, the National Geographic square, the US Open, I want to say. Their new logo is just like a stretched out tennis ball. And before it was like a tennis ball with flames coming off the back, and it was 4 different colors. And his big thing is logo design is trying to make something as simple as you can while also making it unique. And that trend is happening more so, I think, because we're going more into a digital space. And so when people are looking at their phones, having the cat and dog logo is, for like Petco, like you used as an example, is going to be harder for people to recognize than just the name Petco. And so Petco is a pretty short name as it is. And so switching to a word mark, which is what that is, where it's just the text of the company, is always the best option if it can work, because your clients can read your name, if that makes sense. Whereas like an icon, you have to train people to recognize, like, oh, the golden arches is McDonald's, or the apple with the bite out is Apple. That has to be trained over time. Whereas if somebody just reads Petco, they already know that's the right business. Dunkin' Donuts kind of did the same thing. They dropped the donuts part because they do coffee now. So they're just Dunkin', which is a lot shorter. And then their logo is just either Dunkin' or it's DD. I'm trying to think of some other businesses that just recently simplified their logos. But yeah, I would say that's
what are like the technical descriptions of some of the pieces of a logo? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the nuances of like logo and word art and word mark. I'm saying words that you've said before.
Yeah. Word art, I think, is a new one, but
yeah. But like when those are, I mean, you've used both of those words before, maybe not at the same time, but the differences in like what the different pieces or like stylized parts of a like logo are.
Yeah, so there's logo marks. People, they call them logo marks, or they call them like icon marks, which is basically like the golden arches for McDonald's, the apple with the bite out of it. Things that are more like pictorial or symbols are called logo marks. And then there's word marks, which are the words of the company. So that would be like Dunkin' Donuts, or there's a lot of fashion brands that I think have just recently like just switched up. I want to say like Blueberry or something. But yeah, a word mark is just the name of your company, typically the first name without a tagline, in a stylized form that's recognizable. So like Google, if you saw Google without the color behind it, you'd still recognize that that's like a Google font. I'm trying to think of another,
Prana,
like just, what's that?
those, like Prana, the clothing company, that's one. I think that they have a universal font. You're like, yes, I know what that is.
Yeah. So with word marks, you want to make sure that, well, as a designer, when I'm making a word mark, sometimes I'll use a typeface, like a font as a base, and then I will make adjustments to make sure that it's unique to not just being like Helvetica typed out with my company's name. I'll try to make some adjustments to either like how wide the characters are, or the spacing between letters, or maybe the Y doesn't come down and have a loop on the bottom. Maybe it's a straight line. So I try to make some adjustments to make it unique to that company. So when you're seeing it out and about, you can recognize that it's an actual business. But yeah, and then there's like what's called a lockup, which is usually a combination of the logo mark, so like the symbol with the word mark, and that's what you'll see a lot on desktops where you have enough space to show it, or on like marketing materials like billboards or advertising. You'll see the logo, like the Nike swoosh with Nike underneath it. And then you have like logo combinations with taglines, which you'll see depending on the space. A lot of companies, I feel like, they want to show everything that their company does. And so they'll have maybe a logo mark, so like a symbol, then they'll have the name of their company, like Catalyst, and then they'll want to have like business services and marketing, agency underneath. And like, they want to put that on everything. The beauty of making a mark and a word mark and then having all of it together with the tagline is that you can use different parts of those wherever they're needed. So if you're using it on like a social media app, you might want to just use the logo mark, the symbol, because it's going to be more readable on a small surface. Whereas if you're making a business card, you might want to have both the logo and the word mark, if that makes sense. And so I think a lot of businesses, they feel like they need everything about their business everywhere, but it's more so like making sure you have enough white space around the logo and it can breathe a little bit and it's not super cluttered. Because if things are really cluttered and detailed, people aren't going to want to look at it. So it's kind of a balance between like having enough information for them to know who you are, and also knowing that they're going to see your business in other places. So you don't need everything in all the places all the time.
Yeah. So I guess that leads into my next question. I feel like, do you ever design for kind of like the appification of a logo, like designing it to fit on an app size square, or if someone's scrolling on Twitter and that's their, little circle logo, are you finding that you have to kind of design for that as a goal, or is it just something that that is convenient if it happens?
My personal logo philosophy is that if you're a business nowadays and like in 2022 or whatever year it is, if you're not on social media or if you're not in the digital space to a certain degree, you're kind of missing the mark. And so I always think about, how is this logo going to look in a circle? And so that's like one of my first like check boxes. How is this going to look on a profile picture? Am I going to try to make this company's logo be the name of the company, or am I going to try to make a mark that represents the company because maybe the company name is really long? Like I worked with Kristen's logo, Catalyst Consulting, and Catalyst is kind of a long word as far as the number of characters. And so when you shrink that down to something you might see when you're scrolling on Instagram, it's probably not going to be very legible. And so we created a logo mark, her little explosion, star or flower, whatever you want to name it. Do you have a name for that, your logo?
No, I just call it my logo.
Okay.
I say that it's based around the North Star and a compass. And then
Yeah.
people are like, oh, neat.
Yeah, there's some like hidden things that you can throw into logos as far as making it feel good. But yeah, with Catalyst Consulting, I wanted to make sure that there was a logo that could be represented in a circle, because the name of the business was a little bit long to be shrunk down. My like kind of rule of thumb is, if you're like 5 characters or more, kind of 5 is kind of the teeter between maybe it'll look good, maybe it won't. You can use if you're 5 or less, you could probably use your name of your business as your profile picture. If you're any longer than that, I would probably try to find a way to use a logo mark, a symbol, or maybe just using like the first letter of the company if it's unique, and using that as your profile picture. But yeah, that's definitely something I think about all the time.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, because I'm like, you just have a picture on there and it's good. But then I know, like, looking like you were talking about simplification of logos, Starbucks has gone through like 14 iterations of their logo or something absolutely bonkers like that, just to get to the point where it's essentially the same exact logo, but now it fits on a Twitter feed a lot better. So
yeah, that's one of the things you want to think about, is application of the logo. So if I was working for a bigger business, this kind of goes into like the cost of a logo too. I'm not sure if you guys want to talk about that, but if I'm designing a logo for, let's say like Subway kind of went through a logo refresh. Now they have like an S, two arrows, and it makes an S, and it's just an S. It's not Subway. That I think was made so it could fit on social media better and in squares, in a square format, square/circle. But if you go into Subway, this is something I kind of noticed because I think about branding all the time. Their S logo is like when you're getting your drinks from like the tea spout, the metal like lever is embossed with an S logo. So like that's a product that has branding attached to it, which unless you like were working with the company, you wouldn't know that is a place that you would want a logo to be. Kind of seems a little, I don't know. It's like subtle, but it's definitely there, and it makes an impression on you when you're in the store, whether you know it or not. But yeah, knowing where the logo is going to be is another thing that I try to talk to customers with, because I want to make sure that it's going to not only work for the basics like social media icon, website, business card, but it's also going to work on maybe the side of an airplane, or maybe it's on drinks or on top of lids. Or one of the clients I'm working with, they have electronics, and their logo is going to be like stamped on the back of like an aluminum plate. And we have to make sure that when you stamp it, it's not super detailed. And so if we try to use a lot of like pointy edges, those aren't going to show up by the way that it's embossed on the product. And so like that's like a very unique design issue that we have to try to make a solution to, in order to make sure that the logo looks good on everything that we put it on. It's recognizable. So yeah, knowing where your logo is going to go is really important. If you're a small business, it's kind of the basics, like, social media and website. But the bigger you are, the more places your logo has to be. And when you do a rebrand, like let's say Pepsi rebranded a couple of years ago, I don't know, probably 10 years at this point. In order for Pepsi to rebrand, the cost of that rebrand would be astronomical, as far as reskinning trucks, getting new airplanes, logos outside of businesses. And so as a logo designer, I would charge a whole heck of a lot more for a logo for Pepsi as I would for mom and pop shop down the road, because I know that the costs to implement that logo are going to be in the millions, whereas a mom and pop shop is just going to be like maybe $1,000, depending on if business cards and website updates, but the logo I think should be representative of the impact that it's going to have on the business. I don't think Pepsi's going to pay like $2,000 for a logo when they need to put it on $2 million worth of products.
I think they'd love to. No one's going to let them.
Yeah.
I want to circling back a little bit to the simplification of logos. Do you think that it's kind of a chicken and the egg scenario where if I simplify my logo, I can put it in a lot more places? If Subway had written out Subway on each of their little lever or drink levers, that seems a little ostentatious. You know, I'd look at that and be like, wow, don't think too highly of yourself, Subway. You're like, what?
Yeah, you just had to call your tuna not meat. So
Yeah.
like, calm down.
Fucking calm down, bud.
And their
But
bread
that's if
has
they
yoga
spell it out and
mats
it
in it.
feels pretentious. But if you simplify a logo, you put it on anything and I don't think twice about it.
Yeah. So with like brand identity, it's more so it's like there's a difference between like being a logo designer and being like somebody that specializes in brand identity. And that's more so where I would say I fit in is with a brand identity, you're thinking about all the touch points of the business. So wherever a business is going to have a customer look or touch, you want to make sure that your visual image and tone and voice on all those platforms are consistent. So if I were just design a logo and give it to somebody, like that's something that people pay like, $5 on Fiverr for with mixed results, I would say. But you can get a logo and it can be pretty cheap, but that logo is maybe not going to work on all the applications that you need it for your business. And when you're like, if we use another one of Kristen's businesses that I helped her with Brave and Mighty Girls, her nonprofit, I went through like this whole like, how are we going to make sure that our photos on Instagram are going to be recognizable even if we don't have our logo on it? And so Brave and Mighty Girls is trying to empower women and teach young girls how to work with business. And a lot of the strategy that I thought would work well for that was to show women of the past that have like been trailblazers and like making an impact and pushing the envelope. And if we're going to use photos from the past, they're probably not going to be like super digital, super sharp. They're probably going to have some grain. They might be, torn and ripped up, if we're going back to like Betsy Ross and, way back in the day photos. And so when I was thinking about the branding of that business, I was thinking, what's a image treatment that we can do on new photos to make sure that if we post a picture of Michelle Obama, it still feels similar to like a Betsy Ross photo. And so I added grain to the photos that I showed to represent the new branding going forward. I added some digital grain to it. And I also added like a textured overlay to kind of give it a little bit more of like an organic feel, similar to a photograph from back in the day. So when you're scrolling through their Instagram feed, it's not like old grainy black and white photo and then brand new crystal clear sharp photo with like good depth of field and bokeh and all that kind of stuff. So to go back to your like Subway point, like if you can bring in other design elements that are consistent within your branding, like Subway has the 2 arrows, if you can just use arrows in your branding and marketing, like just pointing them in directions to the bathroom or to the exit signs, or having them on the floor to like which way you go in to order. Those are all like brand elements that are intentionally designed to reinforce the main logo. If that makes sense.
It's like on my website and pretty much wherever I can, we use the condensed version of my logo mark. Logo mark? Yeah. Because condensed, it looks like an icon or a bullet point. And so it's just one of those like subtle things. It's like, here's a representation of my brand. It could just be a circle, it could just be like a normal bullet point or whatever, but instead it's the shrunk down version of my logo
and filled
instead
in.
of, yeah.
And so with I'm not sure if we can hopefully we can get like your logo on the screen or something with this video, but yeah, your original logo is like, what is it? 6?
Oh,
7
yeah, I was
star
gonna
points?
say like my original logo or the one that you did.
The one we did now, like it's pretty
Yeah.
simple, but it's also like 6 different shapes. But then like I was thinking another thing that I think about in terms of where the logo is going to be is the favicon on your website browser. So like the very small image when you open up a new tab, that is like pretty much the smallest representation of your logo that will ever be around. It's like a 32 by 32 pixel image is what it really is. And so with Kristen's logo, we, in my opinion, designed a pretty simple logo that I think can work a lot of places, but super shrink down the outlines that design the shapes of most of the logo. If you shrink that down really small, it's going to kind of lose the readability. And so I designed another mark that I just shrank it down and filled it in that we use.
So like 2 colors max, make them vibrant, like black and yellow shows up really well in browser tabs.
Yeah, color contrast is another thing that you should probably think about
It's
in
like a whole
terms of the
nother-
brand
yeah.
colors. Yeah, that's a whole nother bag of worms as far as color theory. But yeah, trying to find, if you shrink your logo down to, something that's like a 1/4 inch by a 1/4 inch, if you can read it, it's probably a good logo. If you can't, it probably needs to be adjusted. Or you need to create a secondary mark that you use consistently in your business that represents your business still. So with Catalyst Consulting, we have a very, very small like star image that can be big, but it's not the main logo that we want to go with. But that's used for very, very small applications. And then we have I would probably call it a monogram, which is a logo that consists of usually initials. With Catalyst Consulting, it's a C with the star in the middle. And then we have the logo mark, which is the star image that was just on screen. And then we have her word mark, which is also picked to look professional, while also it has a little story behind it too, as far as Lafarge is the font that Catalyst Consulting uses. And it's a font that I found that is designed after subway tiles in New York City. So there's like mosaics when you get off of subways in New York City, and it's tiles that are created to, make the words. And so somebody went around New York City and basically made a font out of the style of those letters, and it's called Lafarge. And so Kristen, with her Catalyst Consulting business, we talked about gives like direction to businesses. And so it was kind of a nice Easter egg to use a font that is literally used in subways to get people to where they want to go. So a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool fun facts you can add. I like adding Easter eggs into logos. Even if it's not super apparent, if Kristen's having a business on the Influence podcast and somebody asks her about her branding, and she can, tell a cool little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a logo that impresses you so much like that? Like, what is your favorite logo that makes you go, damn, they nailed it?
Well, my favorite logo designer is Sagi Haviv, and he works for, I'm going to mispronounce it, but it's I could probably pull it up.
We've been drinking, so
Like a
if you
Swedish
mispronounce
design
it,
firm
yeah.
or something.
Oh yeah, well, he's pulling
They're-
that up. Speaking
They're
of which,
United States.
yeah, we've
Okay.
been drinking. So what's everyone actually drinking today?
Oh yeah, we forgot to.
Yeah, well he's googling. We're gonna give him some top cover.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Dave goes
okay,
first.
nice Townsend beer. I pre-gamed with a nice Space Dust IPA, and then a terrible shot of Pendleton. It's Pendleton in bulk, so it's like the stuff that didn't meet quality standards.
It's got to be quality X outs. It doesn't taste like
It's
Pendleton.
rough. But now I'm currently on a spontaneous red ale with Syrah grapes, so I pulled it back to being classy again.
I'm doing a Townsend, which is a local winery in Green Bluff in Spokane, Washington, and it's just a red table blend with a screw top that I spilled before we even started recording. So I was very pleased.
Is that where most of it went?
Yeah.
Yes.
All
yeah.
right, Ben.
Sure. It wasn't me.
I have a Penderin. Oh, that's blurry. Single malt whiskey. Tastes very Scotch. It is from Welsh, or it is Welsh. It's
Wales?
fine. I
From
feel too
Wales?
pretentious. This isn't me. I am a Bud Light kind of person, but
Yeah,
it's good.
Like some
We
natty
caught
ice.
on when you said it's from Welsh.
It's from Hey, we've been drinking. Listen,
Listen.
That's not what his degrees are in. It's not
I don't-
geography.
I can't read.
It's expensive math. That's what it is. And Tanner doesn't drink. Are you hydrating though, like a responsible adult?
I was gonna bring on a yerba mate, which is like a fancy energy drink, tea, but I drank that too fast. I'm drinking. I want to say it's strawberry lemonade Crystal Light.
Ooh,
that's
that's a
delicious.
that's a
I do
good
like that
blend.
one. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like
Good
it's a
blend.
nice summertime blend when
it's
it's
a good
cold.
year. Good year.
Yeah.
Good year. Great vintage. Oh man, I love just the absolute mess of fucking different drinks that we've had on here. There's no consistency. Actually, that's not true. I've had wine 2 times in a row, but it's because I had beer the first time and I had to pee so many times that it was unacceptable. So I switched to wine.
From a
Oh,
branding
man.
standpoint for the podcast, are you guys open to sponsorships as far as like a local brewery?
Alcohol? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Local
Okay.
brewery.
Are you
if-
fucking
if
kidding
Penderin
me? Yeah.
So
from
like no
Welsh
lie or
would like to talk with us.
Yeah. I
Alright,
think
I'm
we
just
need to
putting that
get
out there.
some episodes published with not shitty audio, of which this is the first. So once
Well,
we don't seem like idiots, then
We
maybe.
could have thrown this one in to be like episode 3, but now you ruined it.
I did. Yeah. Yeah, but then we don't want to it's too jarring if you're like, here's oh god, we got like good audio. Like we don't want to
Surprise, we're garbage.
go back into episode 4 and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with these idiots? Like, we just want them to be upset at the beginning and then we improve.
Well,
Yeah.
to be fair, I feel like the experience, not the sound quality, is what really makes this what it is.
I fucking laughed.
That what she told you?
First,
I've
the
had a
first
great time.
episode was Oh, I haven't actually listened to the second one yet, but first one I laughed.
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
great. Yeah.
I was like, that wasn't bad. We had a good time. We went on some rabbit trails and then we actually talked about some good information. So I was like, okay, I think we accomplished what we came here for with terrible sound.
Oh, so sorry. Anyway, so Tanner,
yeah.
you're talking about the logo where you're like, holy shit, they just nailed logos.
Yeah, I got some of those. On that last point though about audio, from like a video standpoint, people will turn off videos for bad audio before they will bad video. So it's a good thing you guys got your audio in line, because audio is more important than video. Just so
I've got a fun psychology fact for that, but
No, do it.
I'll can that for now. Okay, so for me,
You only have 3 things that you know about, David. we have to let you be smart sometimes.
So in psychology, this is a weird thing about it is they did a whole bunch of studies when we started doing remote work and everyone's talking over Zoom and you're trying to be like, how do I be authentic with everyone I work with at work? And it turns out people work with at work. It turns out that people are better at being able to read audio cues than they are at body language and facial cues. So if you are like sad in your Zoom call, people are actually better at picking that up than if you're like sad and trying to keep your shit together in person.
What?
Oh, wow.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's the thing is that usually in person, you're using audio cues and visual and body language.
Mhm.
But if you can only use one or the other, they showed that they're like, yep, you're way better at actually hearing the crying behind the voice than you are seeing the crying behind the
Wow.
eyes.
This explains my downward spiral during COVID.
That's really interesting.
You're open weeping.
You couldn't hide the pain.
Ben's just like,
I'm over here learning things about myself. I didn't sign up for this.
What was the one that it was like, it was when I said, if you're weird and quirky or whatever, everyone else already knows. And you were like, oh no.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we were talking about video content.
Oh, wait, they did all of these?
So this
Holy
firm,
crap.
yeah. Sagi Haviv is like the 3rd designer. These other 2 guys are probably, I want to say, in their 60s or 70s. And this guy is probably in his 40s. So like, yeah, the US Open one is the one I mentioned before. I don't think this is like the best logo in the world, but as far as like seeing how it's applied, they simplified it a lot from the original. I'm not sure if they have the original somewhere down here. They don't.
So Tanner, what I'm hearing is they're starting to age out, so you're going to buy them out and take over.
I don't know about that. I think they have a lot of great designers underneath them. This Haviv guy, though, he's got a pretty good story. He basically just like worked for them to the point where they like had to make him a partner because he was trying to be a partner so much. So it wasn't really a position that was available. He just kind of said, "I'm going to do this."
That's my jam. I like it.
Love it.
But yeah, I don't know. National Geographic logo is pretty cool because it's literally just a yellow rectangle, but I feel like you instantly recognize it. And it's based, it's the frame around the National Geographic magazines, if you're not somebody that's grown up in the last 15 years. But just the way they use it throughout their branding is like, it's simple, but that's the reason why it works everywhere is because it's so simple.
And that's the longevity, right? Like you saying it takes a long time to make a logo recognizable. That yellow square wouldn't work at all if they hadn't had like decades of magazines that so many people recognize.
Yeah. So that's kind of I think good logo design is designing something that's simple, but also unique. National Geographic might've gotten away with it by doing a yellow square because they have had a lot of, like a longevity. Like you said, if you had a new business and you said, hey, I'm going to do a little yellow square, I don't think it would work.
Yellow square.
They're like, hear me out. Hear
Done.
me
Give
out,
this
guys.
man a raise.
Yeah.
I feel like when they designed the National Geographic logo, it was either they showed up hungover and forgot they had a meeting that morning, or they've spent 6 months on that. I feel like there's no in between on designing the National Geographic. Like they're like, hey, what do you have for us? And they're like, oh fuck.
Remember the
yellow
magazines?
Yeah, like what if we just did it like your magazines where it's just like a yellow, they're like looking around the room, like, oh, what if we did a yellow square? And National Geographic was like, oh my God, this guy is visionary. And they're just like, he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go take a nap in one of your other conference rooms real quick. Thanks.
I mean, can we talk about the Clear Motion logo just up and to the left of National Geographic?
Up and
Two
to the
circles.
left.
It's the 2 circles.
Oh, 2 circles.
That's another 6 months or a hangover.
Right there.
That is
yeah.
incredible. I got a
They're
golf
like
clap
they're
that one.
ovals. They're ovals though.
They're ovals.
which
Mhm.
is a
That felt very
circle,
outy.
or
None
is
of
a
that,
circle?
The black
but they're
and white.
also leaning forward, which means that they're giving you forward momentum.
Oh, it's like
And
Sonic
it's
the
And they're like
Hedgehog.
wheels.
infinity.
They're
Yeah,
like
and it's like
wheels.
wheels. Like there was a lot of time and effort that kept in that. But when I
Tanner's like, no, you guys are so wrong.
No,
but
No,
when I
it's
look
not.
at
I-
it,
I have
I'm
a
also
dog.
like, that's
It's
just a
Teddy.
hangover logo.
Yeah, like someone was like leaning, and they're like, "Oh my god, you guys."
But it works. You see it on products and you're like, oh yeah, fair. That's a logo. That looks great.
Yeah. So that's one of the nice things about doing mock-ups for clients is they can see the logo in action. So I never present a logo without doing a bunch of mock-ups. My dog is trying to come through the cat door. So if something happens, that's why.
Don't worry, we can
I
fill
think
the dead
that's
space.
that's on brand for us. I'll just mute you real quick.
But yeah, like the
Yeah.
Discovery logo. I mean, I don't know. This when I design a logo, I kind of think, would this company be happy with it, or am I in line with it? So this is just a circle and like, basically a circle and a square combined to make a D. But it works when you put it onto applications and you can kind of show how the logo can fit within the brand, for like HGTV or Discovery Plus, whatever all these other brands are
The
underneath.
thing that breaks my heart about that is they don't have enough like trashy reality television in one of those.
That's
Should
what
be a
breaks your
D with
heart?
like 2 chicks slapping each other's faces, and in the circle, some dude sledgehammering a wall.
Oh, some cash cab.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh, Cash Cab, man,
That's a
that's what's
brand.
up. Yeah,
I mean, like the PBS logo, like that's iconic, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
this is
Oh, yeah.
That hasn't changed in many years.
yeah.
But
So
Mm.
that's a testament to good logo design. When you don't have to change your logo, you can maintain that brand equity over time. So it's just more and more imprinted on people. And so the goal is to design a logo once. In a lot of smaller businesses, I feel like they try to say too much with their logo, and that's where their biggest mistake is the logo shouldn't say anything about your business. Everything else, as far as your like marketing and advertising, should say what you do. The logo is just represented. The logo is meant to just be an identification of your business, and that's another
Yeah, I
thing
feel
from
like
the Sagi Habib.
when you're like, because Tanner, no big deal, went viral with his first TikTok video. But some of the comments that people do, because like he's done a couple like logo redesign kind of things, like, hey, there's this company's logo and this is what I would do to make it different. And people are like just roasting him and being like, oh, now you can't tell what it is. But it like he took it from an excavator with some mountains and then also the words and then like a hard hat. And it's like you can't see that like when it's a little thing, but people are like, oh, you took out all the meaning. And it's like, but that's the whole point, is that it's not supposed to be a visual representation of what your company does, because Apple is not.
And I feel like that's kind of a thing that we're just doing again, because we look in like the old times when they had like signet rings. Their signet rings weren't like, hi, I'm King Richard III, and also this is my line, and here's my sigil, and here's this. It's just like a cross and then like R3 blap. And then they send out the letters and they're like, oh, this is definitely from King Richard because it has a cross and an R and a 3. And he went blap with it. So that's clearly him. Like he doesn't need to add all of his honorifics and stuff because that'd be a hell of a wax seal.
Yeah.
Or
I'm just letting him out real quick. Sorry.
Yeah, he's gonna take Teddy out.
While we're paused though, I really want to talk about Old Chatham Sheep Herding Company that I
could
found.
tell.
If you
Yeah, put it
scroll
in
way
your-
down.
Yeah, hold on. I need
Like
to
we're
click into it.
going from the US Open, NBC logo, Warner Bros, Chase Bank, State Farm to
Oh
a
my god,
sheep
it's
herding
little
and dairy
ears
farm
wiggle.
to this strange little sheep logo, and I love it. It's
it
wild.
like
They
it's-
do wiggle. That's so cute.
It's like a little alien sheep.
But Ben, they also make cheese and wine. So
Fair.
I feel like this is not actually
They've-
just. I feel like this
They've
is
got
like
some cash.
Yeah, it's in New York's Hudson Valley, and they
Oh.
started with 150 sheep, and they have
Aw.
expanded from there. But the sheep is hand drawn. That's adorable. I like that.
We're here. Hold on, let me share.
I
Tanner,
see
so
What?
it.
you
That's
can-
not digital art? I'm shocked.
Yeah.
There's other ones that I liked in there. If we go back to all the logos. Oh my God, he's back already. He's so fast.
He's outside. He's a good boy. He won't go too far, but
I really like. There was some weird like orange disc that I enjoyed greatly.
There's so many colors.
So fucking weird.
I don't even know. I feel like they refresh the logos each time, so you actually don't see it's that one. I like that conduit one. Like
Or
Yeah,
the
so-
gray that is clearly orange.
Dude, it makes me think of those like the brain games where you have to
Yeah.
like, is it right or wrong? Like it's like
Yeah.
it's blue, but it's red, and you're like, oh God.
you have to read the color or say the
Yeah.
color, not to read the word.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
say my main beef with these guys so far is their Princeton University logo.
Yeah.
Princeton
So
University Press, not Princeton University.
It still sucks.
I would probably agree. So if you go up to the Harvard one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like
Harvard
this
Press.
is what we
Yeah.
should have done, is just done like logo, like
Or
heckling
roasting.
and like fucking yeah. Tanner's been very like reserved and informational, and so I feel like it's time we need to just let some of this shit
Yeah.
out.
Okay,
So
you
I
guys can
guess,
roast some more logos then.
So
I'm
this
gonna check
is
on
my
Tanner.
my question. In disc golf, oh, he's gone. Damn it.
Well, I feel like that's our brand as a podcast, right? Like episode 20, people are still joining, letting dogs out, wandering off screen. Like you
Making
get
tater
what you
tots.
get.
But my question was for him specifically. So
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, he said he
yeah.
was gonna go. He was gonna go
Yeah.
check on him.
yep.
I can try to answer.
Yeah.
All
Ooh,
right,
yeah.
Ben.
Ask us
Okay,
this
here we go.
question. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? I feel like there's a lot of homogenization in
Oh.
logos of professional disc golfers, and I think it's very boring and bad for the brand overall of disc golf. And so what are your thoughts
That is a
on
good question.
yeah, right? I know it was a Tanner question. And
And it's a very
That's
very
a really good
specific.
one.
It's a disc
Yeah.
golf question too, which he's also passionate about.
yeah,
Oh,
this
yeah.
this is
We
why
can
I
switch to
don't
disc golf.
I don't want to burn any bridges for you, because I know we are listened to by the entire
All
PDGA.
13 listeners.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, like, I'm sure all, like, we've got like
Four
Paul
of
Macbeth
which are
listening
here.
to us. We've got
No,
yeah.
I need your
so,
negative attitude.
There's
no,
dozens of us.
yeah. So my question would be, a lot of times I see a lot of disc golf is the most obvious example because I see it a lot. Is I feel like there's a lot of homogenization of logos, and I think that it kind of hurts the overall brand of disc golf. And I feel like they're all going to the same logo designer. So my examples would be like Paul Ulibarri and Paul Macbeth. If I saw their two logos from 20 feet away, it's the same logo. And then you also add in everyone else who has similar logos. Calvin Heimberg's is, at least it's a circle. It's not a chevron, but it's a circle that has letters in it. And so I feel like we have a lot of logos that are just a person's initials crammed into a shape. And then it's like, okay, cool. I want a Paul Macbeth disc. What's the difference between a Paul Macbeth nuke and a Paul Ulibarri nuke? You know, from 5 feet away, not 2 feet. Like, you have to get close before you can recognize that. Do you think that hurts some? I feel like they're going to like one logo guy, and he's like, I do chevron, and I'll fit initials into a chevron.
So I think what you're really talking about is personal branding. Is that
Yes. Yeah, and
So-
then under the control of a greater company, like the NBA, LeBron versus Kobe versus that.
Yeah. I would agree with you that a lot of the disc golf logos look the same. Part of that is because primarily they're all monograms, which are just like logos that are made up of initials. And so to answer your other question, I know there is I think is a really good graphic designer. I believe his name is T-Box, not T-Box Socks, because that's a different disc golf company. But T-Box, and he works pretty closely with Discraft, I think now. And he designed, I want to say, a lot of the logos, the personal branding logos that you've seen. He I don't know. Once you do kind of one, and like I've done a couple different logos, let me see.
I do want to
Okay.
ask about how a brand becomes mainstream after this, though. I want to talk
Okay.
about professional tag.
So like this DK, this is Dustin Keegan. He's a professional disc golfer from Oregon that I work closely with a nonprofit. This is his personal logo that I came up with. And if you tilt this logo vertically, it's a disc golf basket.
Oh my
shit.
God, that's genius.
Oh shit.
What?
Fucking mind blown. DKCourseDesigns.com for those of you that don't have a screen in front of you right now.
So yeah, this
Fucking
was
mind blowing.
he's also a course designer. So like the idea behind this logo came from looking at this logo, which Disc Golf Parks is a kind of a sub or sister company to Discmania, the shirt that I'm wearing. And so if you look at the Discmania logo on my shirt, it has a little basket underneath, which is kind of generic in disc golf. So I wouldn't consider that like an ownable logo in the sport, but it's something that he's sponsored by Discmania. He works for Disc Golf Parks. And so I was like looking at how I can make a personal brand that would feel similar to the companies that he's working really close with. And so that's kind of how I came up with turning it into a disc golf
I like how
basket.
you stealth have your other logo up on the screen.
The Uplay. Yeah, so Uplay is
Oh, I
another one
see
that
you.
I
I see you.
Tanner
I see
did
you.
design that logo too. Yeah.
yeah. So got a broken link on his site.
That's a future Tanner problem. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
It's just I don't run Dustin's site.
Yeah, so this is one that it kind of started the question of because they used to have like this basket and a whole lot of stuff on their logo. So this kind of inspired the question of like simplifying the logo.
Yeah.
Because they used to have, it was just a disc going into a basket, right? I feel like their old one was.
To answer your question about like the personal branding, though, as far as in disc golf, personal branding is tough as far as creating logos, because Kristen and I actually had a talk about this. I feel like last week about personal branding versus business branding.
Yeah.
And
Tanner was having an identity crisis.
Yeah.
And now he's
like we all
4
do.
people. Yeah.
My view now, I think, on personal branding is if you're a Paul Macbeth or a Paul Ulibarri or other people that most of the audience probably doesn't know who they are unless you are in the sport of disc golf, I think using your face is the best way to market yourself. So like profile pictures, and maybe not on like products. And so that's where you kind of need something that represents you. But I think I was watching another podcast about branding, and I think that they said that people, they recognize faces more than they do symbols. And so
I appreciate that Ben actually raises his hand.
You can raise your hand in Zoom. What if your
see that.
face sucks? Asking for a friend.
Well, okay, so then Ben, I actually have a solution for this. There is one disc golf company that all the signature discs do the silhouette of the person throwing the disc for whatever disc it is. So when a person's doing Prodigy disc golf, when they're throwing, like if it's a driver, the silhouette is them when they're throwing a driver. When it's a putter, it's them like putting, and it is just purely runs on their like production.
I feel like are Tanner and David becoming best friends right now? Is that what we're witnessing? Because it feels.
Yep.
I'm feeling a little left out, Ben. Like we've just been over here roasting David in the chat out of sheer jealousy. Anyway, sorry, back to you.
But they do. So they just do silhouettes, and so it's just a black. Like it's just a silhouette of the person, and then it usually has their signature on the bottom, and it's just one that you're just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that's that guy's disc, but it still has all the relevant information for the disc, which is one of my big pet peeves. If you overbrand your stuff and people have no idea what you're trying to do, which in this example, some of these are.
Because David is now a branding expert.
Yeah, some of these are graphic based. I was trying to find it. I know what you're talking about though.
Oh, I saw an octet.
Do you remember Tanner, when this, like in the olden days when you were making custom disc designs?
Yeah, die disc.
Yeah, do you still do it?
I can.
But like you don't do it like you did it like as an industry for a minute.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if the disc golf dyers are listening to this, but I basically had the first idea of I had dyedisc.com, and I would dye discs, and like I was my goal was to not make it something that was like hidden. Like when I tried to get into disc dyeing, it was like you had to go through forums and forums and forums to figure out how to do things, and it was a pain in the butt, and there was no tutorials online, and a lot of it was just a ton of research on terms of how to get different things to happen. And so my big thing was I was going to sell dye kits because it's hard to find what dyes to use that are correct, and then I was going to sell white discs because white discs are the best to dye because they actually represent the colors accurately that you want. And then I was going to sell like stencils and stuff. So I had dyedisc.com, and I was teaching people how to dye discs, but then I realized that to dye a disc, it takes me like 3 hours, and I can only make a $10 profit. And so it just wasn't lucrative enough for me to continue doing it.
So knowing who listens to our podcast, are you a lotion bed guy, a glue bed guy, kind of a...
Those are some words.
Originally, I was a shaving cream bed.
What?
Oh God, this sounds so dirty.
Hey, we had to go off the rails, so now we're going off the rails.
You like somehow took the train and drove it somewhere.
Yeah, people are like, I'm sorry, that station.
Oh, I do remember
this.
I do remember the shaving cream as part of the process. I think that's when we were living together.
Maybe it was.
I feel like it was around that time because you were doing like that, and then you also got into bookbinding. Tanner likes to learn hobbies.
I have we can talk about a bunch of different stuff if you want to talk about hobbies, and I can probably talk your ear off. But
Okay, so I've derailed this thing. So we were on personal brands. So how do you fit your personal brand? So like you have, like if you have Kobe Bryant, MJ's got the jump silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, and like Kobe had a whole lot of things he could market. He could have like marketed Mamba as his brand or his number as his brand, those kinds of things. So how, if you're in like a greater organization, how do you, or even if like, how do you figure out what you're doing? Because Kobe was known for a lot of different things, different epitaphs that he was known for. So like, how do you figure out what your brand is? Like, this isn't his number, this isn't his, it's not Mamba, it's a logo, but you see it and you're like, oh yeah, those are Kobe sneakers.
Yeah. So I guess when you get to the point where your name value is worth something, like most professional athletes, when you like in disc golf, you put your name on bags, you put them on discs, you put them on hats, it can be very profitable. I think that's when you kind of turn into a business. It kind of depends on, I guess, like how you make money. So like if you're like an Instagram influencer, like somebody that has a lot of views on TikTok, and you get sponsored by brands to make videos, I don't know if you necessarily need a logo in order for that to like benefit your brand. But if your personal brand creates a product or something that is either worn or used, I think that's when a logo is eventually going to have to come up. And so you either, I would say, create a business around a product. Like Conor McGregor has Proper 12. And so he like created a business that people know is his business, and it's just totally not really designed around his face or his name. Or you come up with some type of mark that represents your business, like the Jumpman or Kobe's logo, I think is pretty popular in basketball worlds. Yeah.
So like for me, one of them is like Ryan Reynolds had Aviation Gen. But like if I saw the Aviation Gen logo, I wouldn't know it was Ryan Reynolds. But that's one that you have because you're Ryan Reynolds and you already have the name, so you can just completely do something that's
Yeah, so I think
he's also, I mean, Ryan Reynolds is also a marketing genius. So that's like
he's
a whole
very
different,
pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah. So Ryan uses his face to market his products. And so like, I mean, that's Paul Macbeth. If we're talking more about disc golf, he signed that $10 million contract with Discraft. That is because they know that him throwing their disc and putting his name on their disc is going to sell $10 million or more, probably a lot more of work of the product over that time. And so I don't know if Paul really necessarily needs a logo in order to be profitable. I think he could just put his name on discs or like 5-time and then his signature, like a lot of disc golfers do. But yeah, personal branding is definitely like a case-by-case basis. So like with my recent identity crisis, as far as I had an issue where for like my branding business, like helping people build their brands. And I do a lot of that. There's a lot that goes into that. If I work with a business, I can do their video editing, I can do motion graphics, I can do their website. All that kind of stuff is not necessarily like logos, but I can do it. And I do it for like You Play Disc Golf. I edit their videos, I shoot their videos, I help them with like marketing campaigns as far as like ideas and all that kind of stuff. And so I do a lot more than just the logo. But some of the stuff that I do is not things that I want my business to be known for, if that makes sense. So like for FTF Creative, which is my new name to shorten it up, I want my FTF Creative to be specialized in helping small businesses and entrepreneurs learn how to use design to grow their business. And so if I'm posting a video about how I edit a video for like a fight promotion that I just did last weekend, I didn't feel like that would be on brand for my design business. And so in my identity crisis, I basically said, I need to have a personal brand where I can show what I do on a daily basis for Tanner as a creative and a professional person. And then I need to have my business that I ultimately want to grow to where I have employees and they can help create content centered around the idea of helping businesses grow through design. And then I also have my disc golf side of my business or disc golf side of things that I do that is also things I do for work because I film for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So I had previously had a business called Utility Disc Golf, doing disc reviews and selling products, which I just took that website down as far as selling the products. And now I'm using that as like the personal brand for myself in the disc golf space. Because I felt like all those things were like kind of similar, but not on brand for one thing for people to want to follow me. So like in the disc golf space, I think some of the stuff I could post is going to be really cool. So like I'm sponsored by Discmania, which is a disc manufacturer. I create videos for them talking about their products. I film live disc golf for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, which is pretty sweet if you're a disc golfer. Like I would probably do the job for free, to be honest, just because you're like, it's one of my favorite sports. I'm right up to the action and I get the best seat and I get paid to do it. It's pretty awesome. But that doesn't seem to be on brand with my other places. So I basically just and
if Discmania is listening, I only buy Discmania discs because you work for them.
Yeah. So yeah, for the personal brand, I mean, I don't think I need a logo for my personal brand. But I personally felt like I needed to have different social media accounts in order to give people a reason to want to follow me for different things that I do. I feel like if I had too much of all the things I do in one place, I wouldn't be able to grow a following that was wanting to see the same type of content if I'm all over the place. That kind of goes into a different conversation, but yes.
So in an
Thanks for raising
effort,
your hand.
yeah, thank you. I was waiting for I did set it up so it would like automatically recognize, but it's taking it a second to, there we go.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
You like
Sick.
change your position on my screen too.
Yeah, it's very strange. That was not on purpose. So yeah, Ben, thanks for the celebration. Ooh, okay, so we lost Ben. Anyway, so
There's so many options.
yeah,
There's a
in order to get
pumpkin.
this train back on
Off
the
a disc golf,
rails,
yeah.
and back to the station. So final question. God, these fucking idiots. Okay. So final question is, what do you think are 2 things that every small business owner needs to know about their logo design, or should know, right?
Like
Yeah.
what they should know, or like what they should be.
Yeah, what they should know, or what they should be aware of, or what they should be thinking about when it comes to their logo design process.
I would say that you want to design a logo for your customers or your clients more so than yourself. Is first off, you want to make sure that your target client, if you haven't done that or you don't know who your target client is, I think that should be the first step, is like, who is the person I want to work with the most? Like I talked about earlier with the energy vampires, there's a lot of clients that are not my ideal client because it's just going to drain me to work with them. So there's definitely somebody that I want to work with. And so I want to make sure that my logo is something that they're either going to want to work with me or they are going to be attracted to. So that's one, is design for your client, not for yourself so much. And then the second would be simple, is like as simple as you can make it while it's still being like unique.
David, did you have an actual question, or were you just trying to get your automatic hand raised to work?
No, I was just saying, if you don't know who your ideal client is, listen to episode 2 of this podcast, where Ben goes into the business canvas and we talk about who is actually buying your product.
That's true. I did have. Yeah.
Who spends money?
100. Yeah. Okay. Any final questions from the peanut gallery?
You mean
We can cut out the disc golf part.
They're not.
No, it's
Connected.
you two. I mean, you two.
No, I mean, Tanner did a phenomenal job. I thoroughly learned a lot, so I appreciate you taking the time with us. And then we also got to talk disc golf, so it was a win-win.
For you.
Yeah, I could talk
Yeah.
disc golf. I'm going to be
You guys wanna
filming the
post your numbers in the chat?
USDGC.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Our disc golf numbers.
Anyway, thanks for joining us on this episode. There will probably be another one. No promises. We like to keep it interesting. So catch you on the flip side.
Everything is
Everything is
terrible.
terrible. Fucking nailed it.